Melodious is a fusion-based archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh!, debuting all the way back in 2014 via Duelist Alliance. However, it has recently seen a resurgence via the support from one of our latest sets, Legacy of Destruction. Now, not only is this deck seeing major success, including its top 16 performance at YCS Indy, but it's also seen play in various decks in the current format as an engine. What's going on YouTube? It's Ref Team Arsenal back on another video, and today we'll be discussing how to beat Melodious. Now, in this video, we'll be covering this deck's strengths and weaknesses, as well as its typical end boards and the most optimal hand traps, board breakers, and going first and going second options to counter it. So let's start with the typical end boards. As you guys can see in the diagram I have set up for you here, the deck can end on various lines, but mainly these are some of the main go-to monsters for the deck. Some people even say it can end on an Eyes Vortex Dragon, which I haven't personally seen yet myself, but I'm gonna let you guys know just for a heads up. But also keep in mind that the deck also plays plenty of hand traps, including Hero of the Orange Light, so keep that in mind as well. But for the main board itself, we're looking at possibly a Berta, which is a triple DD Crow effect, an Aria, which is targeting battle protection for all the Melodious monsters, Bacha, which allows you to activate your monster effects, especially for your Melodious fusions, where they can't be negated, especially with a Bagooska on board, because that turns off all your opponent's monster effects with none of your own. Sometimes they end on an IP Masquerena, but they can also end on a Flowering, which has multiple bounces that do not target, but is based on how many monsters they banish from their board that are Melodious. Now, as far as strengths go for this deck, it's first of all very consistent and has a plethora of 1 and 2 card combos, as well as plenty of non-engine space, which is pretty standard for most decks that's competing in this current format nowadays. It's very good in the grind game, with their boards being very sticky and hard to break most times. And then thanks to Aria, it has blanket target protection and battle immunity, as well as non-targeting interactions. Now, as far as weaknesses go, some of these aren't necessarily a problem strictly for this deck, but first and foremost, it's very weak to non-target removal, such as Droplet, Dark Blue No More. I would say Regeki, Lightning Storm, etc., but they also have like main deck monsters that actually protect them from destruction as well, so I don't want to necessarily put those in there, but Droplet and Dark Blue No More always will get the job done. It has little to no back row movement or interactions with the back row in the main deck in most cases, but this is something that's usually a problem for most decks. But you see now that decks nowadays are actually maining Cosmics or MSTs, etc., just for that situation. Then finally, it plays a lot of, and I mean a lot of, one-of engine requirements and combo pieces, which they kind of suck to see them in hand, but they can still make their combo and navigate around them. It's just something where it might make their end board a little bit weaker. Now, as far as hand traps go, I do recommend the standard lineup of Ash, Imperm, Veiler, maybe even Ghost Ogres. But you also can play cards such as D-Shifter, Droll, maybe Bestials, and Nibiru. As far as Ash, you can hit the Asinato, but keep in mind it's not once per turn. You also get the Refrain if it's used before the Asinato, as well as first movement solo. For Ghost Ogre, you can definitely hit their Scales, Couplet, and Refrain. And for Impermanent Veiler, you can hit the Refrain, the Bacha, the Bloom Harvest, or the Couplet. Shifter is really strong in this matchup as the deck is Graveyard reliant. And cards such as Drone, Lockbird, Nib, and Bestials can be solid as well, but it depends on their hands and the way they go about their lines. Now, as before mentioned, as far as board breakers go, I highly recommend cards such as Forbidden Droplet and Dark Blue No More, as they have a cloud negation over the board and they do not target. I also recommend cards such as Book of Eclipse and Cosmic Cyclone. As far as Book of Eclipse, it's a full non-targeting board disruption and is viable in other matchups. And Cosmic can hit the Pendulum Scales. There's also a case for Super Poly, Lava Golem, and Spear Mode, but those I don't feel are very viable as far as a siding deck option against other matchups, so I would not recommend them. Now, many of the aforementioned cards in the board breaking section can also be used for going first as well as going second options, so I won't really cover too many going second options now. I will be strictly focusing on going first options, which include D-Barrier, Anti-Spell, TC Boo, Skill Drain, D-Fissure, and Macro. As far as D-Barrier, you can either call Fusions, or if you feel like they're about the Pendulum, something you can call Pendulum. Anti-Spell and TC Boo basically solve the same issue, as they both prevent their spamming of summons, but Anti-Spell can hurt their Pendulum Scales as well as their Fusions. and TC Boo locks them as they're a monotype with light fairies. But unfortunately, these are both one-ofs. Skill Drain is really strong, as most of their effects are activated on the field, and they have little to no background removal for said Skill Drain. And D-Fissures and Macros are basically permanent D-Shifters. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Are there any other options we possibly missed out on, or spice decks that you guys are using to counter this said deck? Leave in the comment section below. But it's been Ram for Team Arsenal. Peace, and have a great day.